What's going on, guys? Steve with AmpEFI. Today we're gonna do a quick update on the E30. We had a little bit of a mishap at the track. Some things went well, some things went wrong, and a lot has changed. So let's check it out. If you like big wings, this is a big wing. We did a 9 Lives Racing wing on this car. Did one of their kind of build your owns. This is I believe it's a 62-inch cord. We did our own end plates. We made our own uprights. They mount pretty cool. Lots of trunk cutting had to happen for these, but they mount to the rail. You can't see it obviously, but there's another plate that runs on the inside of the rail. Luckily, you know, 3D modeling is easy these days, and send, cut, send makes things happen. Wasn't too bad, bolted right in, and then, well, we welded it up and put it together the night before we were supposed to be at the track. It was a long night. I was here till, well, I didn't get home till after midnight, if that tells you anything. And the wing didn't go on the car till 10 p.m., if that tells you anything else. It's a lot of fun. All right, the car is obviously being sanded on. Why? Well, if you are gonna be at Barber June 6th and 7th, we'll be there with Jzilla. We're their title sponsor for that event. Well, this car doesn't look good, and we're trying to make it look good for that event, and hopefully it runs again for that event under its own power. So I'm trying to fix up some body work. This car had a sunroof in it at some point, and sunroof delete was done before we bought it. And they just kind of like did some JB Weld work around the seam. So I had to sand that down and try and get this all cleaned up. So that's what we're doing now. And then the paint had a bunch of failing clear coat. Somebody, I don't know who, spun the car out at Road Atlanta and hit the wall. When I find that guy, it was me. Anyway, I gotta try and find a new tail light. So doing some minor body work, trying to clean things up, you know, because if you don't clean it up, you're gonna see it right through the wrap. Although really the car just needs to take good pictures from like 30 feet away because race car. So it's all scuffed, trying to get it cleaned up, ready for paint or wrap, or I'm gonna have to paint some of it because bare metal shouldn't be wrapped. Now, the engine bay still looks clean. Well, maybe, it's probably dusty. But a bunch of stuff has changed on the nose of the car. So let's dive in and take a look at all the work I did there. All right, guys. Tell me, what do you think? Does the nose of the car look aggressive? Does it look funny? Does it look like it took 40 hours? Because it took 40 hours. The splitter is really large. That's a 6-inch lip. And then the splitter runs, it's a full tray under the car all the way to the firewall. It definitely made a big effect on the car. The splitter plus the wing made the car much more balanced on track. It was a lot more stable, a lot more repeatable coming into and out of corners. The car, I always kind of felt like I was driving it up on its limit. I don't know AMP that well. I've only driven that track a couple of times, and that's where we were at. But I can tell you the car has a whole lot more in it. We'll see next time I'm out at Road Atlanta how big of a difference it is, but coming up off the final turn onto the front straight at AMP usually feels pretty sketchy. When I exit the apex, it usually feels like I'm gonna run off into the grass. And with this setup, the car's really stable. I'm able to run pretty much whatever line I'd like to through that zone. All the tuning we did, the torque made a big difference going into and out of corners. Definitely a lot more torque steer going on, but it was really hard to tell exactly what made the biggest difference because all the aero went on the car at the same time. Issues that the aero caused. I gotta do hood vents in the car. It was running between 220 and 230 on track, and it's not even the middle of the summer yet. So in data logs, I can see that if I go slower than 65 miles an hour, the car cools off. And if I go faster than 95 miles an hour, the car cools off. Which is a problem because at a track like AMP, you're between those two numbers a lot. That tells me heat's getting trapped under the hood because of the splitter and the under tray that's been done to the car. Some heat extraction is going to need to be done. We'll see, hopefully that helps. Unfortunately, we lost a bunch of stuff. So let's put this thing up in the air and take a look. Man, I managed to break so much stuff in a 45-minute shakedown. Like, we went out there to just do some new product testing and make sure the car was in good shape. I managed to lose, the brake ducts blew out, the differential started leaking, the transmission started leaking. Classic BMW, I stopped the engine oil leaks and all the leaks moved down the drivetrain. All right, so the brake ducting here, I'm not sure if you can see this, but got a big tear in the brake ducting. This actually, it happened on track. I'm not sure exactly when. Unfortunately, it did happen. Things that, well, started leaking. Now, I just had this transmission out of the car to do clutch. If you saw that video, you'll see that the clutch basically disintegrated on the car. And when we cleaned it up, the clutch slave cylinder had been leaking. So we assumed that the fluid that was in the bell housing was from the slave cylinder. Regardless, we sealed up, we resealed everything in the bell housing area, but I guess I did it wrong because we have leaks from the bell housing again. You know, nothing like a black flag for, hey, we smell something burning. Fluids from your vehicle, so we have to figure out what that is. So the transmission's got to come back out, figure out what's going on there, and then the tail shaft appears to be leaking as well. Everything is dry. We had a big leak from the transmission vent previously. I since replaced the vent with hose barb and ran it up to a filter in the engine compartment. And of course, you know, you fix one problem, you create another. I guess we had some leak action happening here. Somewhere within these 4 bolts, we have a leak. So the transmission's got to come out and be resealed. It's a must. Because the splitter tray is so large, I mean, it's a fairly large tray here. I'm assuming, you know, the engine was running hotter. We're not getting as much heat escaping the engine compartment area, and what is coming right through this zone. And you can see that, well, we've got this control arm bushings removed because it basically disintegrated. At the end of my session on Friday, the car started feeling really unstable going into turns, especially when I was going into a left. I decided to bring the car in. And while we did not find this on Friday, we did, that was when we got black flagged for fluid smell, and that's, you know, we decided to just take the car in and call it a day. There's no sense in, the diff was leaking pretty good. Well, come to find out, the diff wasn't necessarily leaking, the fluid was really burned in the diff, and we just checked it and the fluid was fine. So either I have a pinion bearing going bad in the diff, or the fluid expanded and was coming out of the vent. Based on the way the fluid looks, it was coming out of the vent. So I have the diff unbolted. It's kind of hanging by the axles right now. We emptied it out. We'll take a look at it in just a minute. I am ordering parts, and it'll be a rush. I got to get all of this done this week because next week this car is supposed to go to wrap. And while I was going to tackle the wrap myself, because race car, it doesn't need to be perfect, because of the time crunch and the fact that we really need it done, I'm just going to let a professional handle it and maybe even pay him a little extra to deal with me watching what he's doing, because of course I'm going to slow him down. The exhaust I thought was going to be loud. We just completely redid the exhaust, the long tubes to a single 2.5. We tossed we had lying around the shop cherry bomb in it, and we got a big 3-inch 3-out MagnaFlow at the end of the exhaust. And we were probably the quietest car on track. Based on how it sounded on the dyno, we thought we might be over the decibel limit, but I swear there were just some straight piped, just very obnoxious cars out there on Friday. I could probably completely remove this and the car would sound really, really good. All right, let's take a look at this diff. All right, guys, so don't judge me. I know you're gonna judge me because I'm letting the diff hang by the axles and the drive shaft, but you know you've done this. All right, so the diff is, at first I thought maybe we overheated it and we burned it out, but you know, I tested to make sure that the diff's still locked up by dumping the clutch in the parking lot. Both tires still lock up just fine. I don't feel any play in the pinion bearing or really in anything. So I think it just has not been resealed in a long time. So that's what we're doing. We're just going to do a reseal. I'm actually going to try and make a scoop to get some air moving over the cover, because the cover does have the factory fins on it. And maybe we can get some of that heat off of the diff a little bit. So we're going to fill it with a thicker fluid this time. I think it had a 7590 in it before. We're going to put a 75-140 and see what happens. In the cover, I professionally modified it by using a brass fitting. And I'm going to monitor just with a GM coolant temp sensor, the Diff fluid temp. And if we start seeing temperatures above 230 to 250, we know something's probably going wrong, either airflow over the diff to keep it cool, or we may legitimately have a bearing failure happening. Although the fluid doesn't look good, there wasn't really any metal that I could see in the fluid. And this is supposed to be red line. And you can see it looks pretty burnt up. It smells worse than it looks. That's almost everything that's gone wrong. I don't know, I haven't taken the splitter off yet to see what else has gone wrong. So we'll find that when we pull that off to check over the front suspension. That's pretty much it. Hopefully we get it finished in time for the Jzilla event. I'll see you guys there.